I never thought a single summer could change everything I thought I knew about love, jealousy, and family. But it did. It started the day I met her, the sister who would laugh at me, not in a kind, playful way, but with that sharp, biting edge that made me feel small the moment I opened my mouth. Her name was Cassandra, and from the first moment she glanced at me, I knew she didn't belong to my world. She had that perfect, polished way of moving, the kind of elegance that made people stop and stare. And there I was, just me, simple, ordinary, probably too quiet for someone like her. Then there was her sister, Lila. Sweet, warm, the kind of person who made you feel like sunlight had somehow decided to live inside her. She smiled at me like I mattered, really mattered, in a way I hadn't felt in years. There was something magnetic about her, something that made my chest tighten every time she laughed. She didn't care about the fancy clothes, the parties, or the way I didn't fit into the glamorous world she and her sister seemed to inhabit. She saw me, and that terrified and thrilled me all at once. I thought I could handle Cassandra. I thought I could ignore the snide remarks, the subtle digs at my clothes, my hobbies, my job. Basically everything about me that didn't scream wealth or status. But the more she mocked, the more I felt myself shrinking, fading into the background. And the worst part? Lila seemed powerless to stop her. At least, that's what I thought at first. The first night we all met, it was supposed to be simple, just a casual dinner at their family's house. I wore my favorite sweater, the one that felt like me, even if it didn't match their world at all. Cassandra's laugh cut through the room like a knife when I tripped slightly on the rug. I wanted to vanish. I wanted to retreat into the quiet life I had built for myself and never leave it. But then Lila touched my hand in a quiet, reassuring gesture, and just for a moment, the world felt lighter. I couldn't explain why, but I wanted to be near her, to make her smile again, to see that spark in her eyes. And yet, I also couldn't stop wondering why Cassandra seemed determined to make me feel worthless. It was like a storm hovering over us, unpredictable, dangerous. I knew that whatever this summer held, it wasn't going to be simple. By the time dessert arrived, I realized that nothing about this was going to be ordinary, and that my feelings for Lila might just pull me into something I wasn't prepared for. Something that would make me question who I could trust and who I couldn't. And deep down, I feared that Cassandra's laughter wasn't just about me. It was about something far bigger, something I wasn't ready to face. And then, as if the universe knew exactly how to push me, something happened that would change everything. Something that would make me question whether Lila's warmth was enough to survive Cassandra's storm. The summer had only just begun, but it felt like I had been pulled into their world for a lifetime. Cassandra and Lila weren't just sisters. They were two halves of a coin that never landed how I expected. Cassandra, with her sharp edges, seemed to glide through life effortlessly, always commanding attention. Her laughter could make a room freeze, and not in a good way. I learned quickly that she had a way of saying things that made you feel like every mistake, every hesitation, every simple choice of yours was a flaw that deserved ridicule. Lila, on the other hand, was warmth personified. She didn't care about perfection. She cared about moments, quiet ones, loud ones, messy ones. When she laughed, it felt genuine, like the sun had slipped through the clouds just to touch her face. I found myself drawn to her in ways I hadn't expected. And somehow, amidst the tension Cassandra created, Lila made me feel safe. Their family home was a reflection of their differences. The main hall was polished, grand, almost intimidating, Cassandra's domain, it seemed. The smaller, sunlit rooms where Lila spent her time were soft, inviting, and messy in a way that felt alive. Paintings with unfinished edges, books stacked haphazardly on tables, a faint smell of coffee and flowers lingering in the air. It was in these rooms that Lila laughed with abandon, where her voice didn't have to compete with anyone else, and where I first felt like I could breathe. It wasn't just the sisters that shaped this story, it was the summer itself. Long days melted into warm nights, the kind that made people vulnerable in ways they usually guarded against. I had come to town to escape a life that felt stagnant, to work on my small freelance projects, to find a rhythm I had lost. I never expected to find them, both of them, in the same place at the same time. The first few days were small tests, subtle battles I didn't know I was part of. Cassandra would make comments about my clothes, my job, my habits, always sharp, always knowing just how to sting. Lila would smile softly at me afterward, or offer a quiet word of reassurance that made me forget the sting, if only for a moment. But the tension between the sisters was always there, like an invisible thread stretched taut above my head. I began to notice the way Cassandra's eyes would follow me, the way she would lean into Lila's space, almost daring me to claim any part of her sister's attention. And Lila, bless her heart, didn't see it as a game. She was too genuine, too kind. But her kindness made me wonder if she realized how dangerous this dynamic could become. By the end of that first week, I started to feel the strain. Every laugh from Cassandra cut a little deeper. Every glance from Lila pulled me closer to something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. I realized that this summer was going to be about more than simple friendship, more than innocent flirtation. It was about survival in a battlefield of emotions I didn't fully understand yet. And then one evening, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, Cassandra did something that made me freeze, something that made me realize this was no longer a harmless rivalry. It was personal, and somehow, I had become the target. It started small, Cassandra's comments at dinner, a sly remark about my old car, the way she tilted her head and smiled as if she expected me to shrink. But soon, it escalated. She began inviting her friends over, people I didn't know, people who laughed at my awkward jokes and quiet demeanor just to make me feel out of place. Every time I entered a room, it felt like stepping onto a stage where I was destined to fail. Lila noticed, of course. She would place her hand on mine, whisper something kind, try to shield me from Cassandra's cruelty. But the sisters' dynamic was complicated. Cassandra wasn't just teasing me. She was testing me, pushing boundaries, measuring how far she could go. And somehow, I was at the center of it. The more I tried to stay confident, the more the tension grew. I found myself second-guessing every word, every laugh, every gesture. The worst nights were the quiet ones, when Cassandra's eyes followed me across the room, sharp and calculating. It wasn't just disdain anymore, it was a challenge. A silent, invisible battle I didn't understand how to fight. And yet, Lila's presence pulled me in the opposite direction, made me want to fight anyway. I couldn't decide which sister mattered more to me, or if I even wanted to. One evening, things reached a boiling point. We were sitting on the porch, the golden light of sunset falling over the garden, when Cassandra made a comment that cut deeper than usual. She laughed at something as trivial as my love for old novels, mocking my simple life in front of everyone. My face burned, and I tried to brush it off. Lila, for the first time, looked frustrated. She shot her sister a look, one that I had never seen before, sharp and angry, like a warning I didn't fully understand. But Cassandra didn't stop. Not then. Not ever. And just when I thought I could retreat into silence, something happened, an accidental brush of hands with Lila, a shared laugh that felt forbidden in Cassandra's presence. And I saw it. The flicker of envy, the dark spark in Cassandra's eyes, the moment she realized I was slipping closer to her sister than she wanted me to. I felt it immediately. The air shifted, heavier somehow, as if a storm were approaching that I couldn't see but could already feel on my skin. I wanted to laugh it off, to pretend it was all harmless teasing. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Something was coming, something I couldn't prepare for. And then, in the quiet that followed, Cassandra whispered something so cold and deliberate that I froze. Words I couldn't yet understand, but that promised chaos, secrets, and a summer I might not survive unscathed. After that evening on the porch, nothing felt normal again. Cassandra's glances followed me wherever I went, sharp and deliberate, as if she were marking every movement, every smile, every small gesture I made toward Lila. I began noticing patterns I hadn't seen before. The way she lingered just long enough near the door to overhear. The way her laughter suddenly paused when I entered a room, as though she were calculating her next move. Lila, blissfully unaware of just how dangerous her sister's intentions were, continued to pull me closer. She invited me to help her in the garden, to sit beside her while she read, to walk along the riverbank at twilight. Each moment was tender, electrifying, a dangerous pull that made me forget about Cassandra's presence, but I could never forget entirely. Every time Lila laughed, I felt something inside me break open and rebuild itself all at once. But then Cassandra would appear, like a shadow in the corner of the sunlight, and everything would twist back into tension, every smile suddenly suspect. It was during one of those long, golden afternoons that I realized just how far Cassandra would go. We were all in the garden, Lila humming softly while planting flowers, me kneeling beside her, trying not to fumble with the soil. Cassandra's friends were around, her laughter carrying across the yard, sharp and artificial. She deliberately dropped a vase, letting it shatter near my feet, then smiled at me with that cold, precise expression. Everyone gasped, but I was frozen, heart hammering, unsure whether to be angry, embarrassed, or afraid. Then came the whispers. Small things I overheard when I thought no one was listening. Comments meant to unsettle me, to plant seeds of doubt. She's just pretending she likes you. Don't get too close to her. She's yours to lose. Cassandra's words were careful, surgical, designed to twist my mind against itself. I started questioning everything. Lila's smiles, her soft words, even her hand brushing against mine. Was she really as innocent as I thought, or was there more I couldn't see yet? By the time dusk fell, the tension had become unbearable. The sky bled orange and purple, the air thick with heat and unspoken threats. Lila tried to lighten the mood, suggesting we make lemonade and sit on the porch steps. I followed her, desperate for even a few moments of normalcy. But Cassandra appeared behind us, her presence immediate, suffocating. She leaned casually against the railing, eyes glinting with a quiet menace, and I realized with a sinking feeling that she had been orchestrating all of this. Every glance, every tease, every cruel joke. And then, just as I was about to speak, she said something that stopped my breath. Not loud, not dramatic, just a whisper meant for me alone, a word carried in the wind and soaked in ice. I didn't understand it fully, but I felt it hit me in my chest, a warning I couldn't ignore. Something was coming, something that would shatter the fragile bubble of trust and warmth I had found with Lila. I had no idea just how much of my life, my heart, and this summer would be caught in the storm Cassandra was preparing. I thought I understood the battle, Cassandra mocking me, Lila protecting me, and me caught somewhere in the middle. I was wrong. That night, I stumbled upon a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. Hidden behind the doorway, I watched Cassandra and Lila argue, their voices low but sharp. I told you to stay away from him, Cassandra hissed, her face twisted with anger I had never seen before. Lila's hands shook. I can't ignore how he makes me feel. You don't own him. A chill ran through me. Own him. The word echoed like a warning, cold and possessive. Suddenly, the tension I had felt all summer snapped into something darker, something I hadn't anticipated. Lila wasn't just innocent. She had been hiding something about her feelings, about her choices, something that could ruin everything if I got it wrong. Cassandra stepped closer, her eyes narrowing, and whispered something I couldn't catch. But I didn't need the words. The look in her eyes told me everything. This summer wasn't just about teasing or rivalry. It was a storm, and I was right in the middle, with no idea which sister I could trust, or if either of them even deserved my trust at all. And in that moment, I realized I had no way back. The night everything came to a head was stormy, both outside and inside my chest. Rain pounded against the windows, echoing the chaos I felt as I stepped into the grand hall of their house. Cassandra was there, arms crossed, lips tight, eyes flashing with a mixture of fury and triumph. Lila stood beside her, but something had shifted. There was tension between them I hadn't seen before, a fracture in the warmth I had trusted. You shouldn't have listened, Cassandra said, her voice low, sharp. Now you know too much. I froze. I didn't know what she meant, but I could feel the danger in the air, like lightning ready to strike. Lila stepped forward, her hand brushing mine, but I sensed hesitation, a flicker of guilt I couldn't ignore. Then it all spilled out. Secrets I hadn't imagined, confessions that made my stomach twist. Lila admitted she had felt torn all along, caught between her sister's dominance and her own desires. Cassandra revealed that she had orchestrated the teasing, the tests, even the little pranks, not out of malice at first, but because she wanted to see if I was worthy of Lila's trust, worthy of her sister's attention. I wanted to step back, to retreat into my quiet life, but it was too late. The storm had reached me. I realized I had fallen for Lila, completely, irreversibly, and that my feelings had become the lightning rod in this twisted dance between sisters. And just when I thought I understood it all, Cassandra stepped closer and whispered something that made my heart stop. Not about me, not about Lila, but about herself. A secret she had kept for years, one that explained everything. The envy, the cruelty, the obsessive control. It wasn't just a rivalry between sisters. It was a pattern, one that could destroy more than just me. I had to make a choice, and fast. Could I trust Lila despite everything? Could I navigate Cassandra's storm without getting swept away? My heart pounded as the rain lashed the windows, each drop a reminder that nothing about this summer, or my life, would ever be simple again. And then, in the flicker of lightning, I saw it. A truth that changed everything I thought I knew about them, about myself, and about what it really meant to survive love, envy, and betrayal all at once. The storm finally passed, leaving the garden wet and glistening under a tentative morning sun. The air smelled of fresh earth and rain, a quiet contrast to the chaos of the night before. I sat on the porch steps, trying to process everything, my hands still trembling. Cassandra and Lila were beside me, the tension from yesterday hanging faintly but noticeably, like a shadow that had passed but left its imprint. Cassandra's gaze softened, just a fraction, as if she finally realized that her tests, her cruelty, her obsession, had only brought clarity, not control. She didn't apologize, not outright, but the small nod she gave me said more than words ever could. Lila, on the other hand, looked at me with that open, tender expression I had fallen for from the start. But now, there was something stronger behind it. Honesty, courage, and a shared understanding of the chaos we had survived together. She took my hand, and I felt the warmth seep in, the weight of the past weeks lifting, piece by piece. We didn't need to speak. The silence between us was enough to acknowledge the unspoken promises, the connection forged under fire, under storms both literal and emotional. Cassandra lingered nearby, watching, no longer a threat but a complicated part of the tapestry of our lives. A reminder that love and loyalty aren't always simple, that people are not always who they appear to be. I realized then that this summer had been more than just a series of tests or conflicts. It had been a lesson in trust, in vulnerability, in seeing the truth beneath appearances. Lila and I had found something rare, a bond that could survive jealousy, cruelty, and even fear. And Cassandra, despite all her sharp edges, had inadvertently taught me that people are layered, that motives are complicated, and that love sometimes requires navigating storms you don't expect. As we walked through the garden, the wet petals clinging to our shoes, I felt a strange sense of peace. The tension that had gripped me for weeks was dissolving, replaced by a quiet certainty. I had chosen my path. I had chosen honesty and connection over fear. And Lila had chosen me, in her way, the way that mattered most. Cassandra stayed in the background, but I sensed that this chapter wasn't just over for me. It was over for all of us. And in that realization, I understood something essential. Life isn't about avoiding storms or controlling people. It's about weathering them, learning, and finding the moments of clarity and warmth that make it all worthwhile. I glanced at Lila, and she smiled that familiar, unguarded smile. I smiled back, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, we had survived the most complicated summer of our lives, and we had done it together. And as the sun broke fully through the clouds, painting everything in gold, I couldn't help but feel that life, no matter how messy, cruel, or confusing, had a way of showing you exactly who was meant to stay and who wasn't, if you had the courage to see it clearly.